Hello, strangers. Welcome back to the Strange Bar and Grill. I'm your host, JP. Have you heard the story about the two men from Texas that wanted to travel to a Haitian island? They wanted to take over this island by killing all the men and enslaving the women and children. Well, that's what we're talking about today. I'll be diving into that story and sharing everything I found about that story so far. Now, I usually do a whole big intro, the whole nine, but I'm supposed to be on vacation, meaning I'm off of work this week, and I'm also not doing YouTube this week. But the story is just so wild to me, I just had to share it. But let's jump right in. "30 miles off the coast of Port-au-Prince, surrounded by turquoise waters and coral reefs, lies an island that time forgot, Gonave Island, home of 87,000 people, mostly fishermen, farmers, families scraping by on one of the most impoverished islands in the Western Hemisphere. It's a place most Americans have never heard of, a place where electricity is a luxury, where clean water is a daily struggle. But two young men from the affluent suburbs of Dallas, Texas saw something else when they looked at this island. They saw an opportunity. They saw a kingdom. They saw a hunting ground. According to federal prosecutors, Gavin Weisenberg, 21 years old, and Tanner Christopher Thomas, 20 years old, spent nearly a year planning what can only be described as a nightmare. A scheme so depraved, so cartoonishly evil, that when authorities first uncovered it, they could barely believe what they were reading. Their alleged plan? Sail to Gonave Island with an army of recruited mercenaries, homeless mercenaries, murder every single man on the island, and then turn the women and children into S3X slaves. That's right, they wanted their own Epstein Island. This wasn't a passing fantasy scribbled in a dark corner of the internet. This was, according to the indictment, an elaborate conspiracy with training, reconnaissance, recruitment, and preparation that spanned from August 2024 to July of 2025. One of them even joined the United States Air Force, specifically to learn the combat skills he would need to carry out the attack. Now, to understand this case, we need to start with the two men at its center, Gavin Weisenberg. He was 21 years old. He's from Allen, Texas, a prosperous suburb in Collin County, consistently ranked among the safest and most affluent communities in America. The kind of place with manicured lawns, top-rated schools, and families who drive their kids to soccer practice in luxury SUVs. Tanner Christopher Thomas, just 20 years old, was from Argyle, Texas, another wealthy community in Denton County, known for its horse ranches, sprawling estates, and Friday night football. By all outward appearances, these were ordinary young men from extraordinarily privileged backgrounds, the kind of guys you might see at the local Starbucks, scrolling on their phones, blending into the suburban landscape. But according to federal prosecutors, beneath that ordinary surface, something deeply disturbing was festering. In August of 2024, Weisenberg and Thomas allegedly began communicating about what the Department of Justice would later describe in chillingly clinical language as a plan to fulfill their RAP, carry the E, fantasies. And you know what I mean, some SA. So let that sink in for a moment. These weren't teenage boys making edgy jokes in a group chat. No, these were not those young Republicans who were so-called joking. These were adults, legal adults, allegedly making operational plans, logistical assessments, training schedules, recruitment strategies. The target they chose was Gonave Island, Haiti, and the scope of what they allegedly planned is almost incomprehensible. They wanted to murder every man on an island of 87,000 people and enslave every woman and child for SA. Grape. They weren't just planning a crime, they were allegedly planning a genocide, a mass SA enslavement. The creation of their own private island of horrors, their own Epstein Island, but exponentially more depraved. A place where they would reign as kings over a population of captives, with no law, no oversight, no escape for their victims. Now, what separates this case from other disturbing online fantasies is what came next. These two men didn't just talk about their sick fantasy. According to the federal indictment, they took concrete steps over the course of nearly a year to make it a reality. So let's walk through that timeline. In July 2024 through May of 2025, they did language training. Both Weisenberg and Thomas allegedly enrolled in Haitian Creole language courses, Think about that. They wanted to be able to communicate with their victims, to give orders, to control. This wasn't impulsive, it was calculated. On August 5th of 2024, Weisenberg enrolled at the North Texas Fire Academy in Rockwall, Texas. According to prosecutors, this wasn't because he wanted to save lives. It was because he wanted to acquire tactical skills useful for their planned coup. First responder training, emergency response, and physical conditioning. He failed out of the program in February of 2025, but by then his alleged co-conspirator had found another path to training. Freaking loser. January 7th of 2025, Tanner Thomas enlisted in the United States Air Force. According to the indictment, Thomas communicated to Weisenberg via social media that the explicit purpose of his military service was to gain combat skills relative to their planned attack on Gavin Island. He allegedly infiltrated the United States military as a Trojan horse, swearing an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, while secretly planning an armed invasion of a foreign nation. February 20 of 2025, the Thailand trip. After failing out of the Fire Academy, loser Weisenberg pivoted. He purchased plane tickets to Thailand, not for tourism, but allegedly to enroll in sailing school. Why sailing? Because their plan called for purchasing a sailboat to transport themselves, their weapons, their ammunition, and their explosives across the Caribbean to Haiti. No commercial airline, no customs inspection, just open water. According to the indictment, Weisenberg arrived in Thailand, but never enrolled in the sailing course. The cost was too high. Even evil, it seems, has a budget. And this guy's a moron. Why the hell did he go all the way to Thailand before seeing what this stuff costed? To see what this stuff cost. Dude failed out of class, went all the way to Thailand with no money. Apparently spent all his money on the damn tickets and got there, couldn't afford the classes for sailing. Dumbo. March 14th, 2025, the strategic reassignment. Originally, Tanner Thomas was assigned to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, but according to prosecutors, he requested and received a transfer to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. Why Maryland? Two reasons. According to the indictment, first, to stay in the United States where he could continue planning with Weisenberg, and second, and this is where it gets even more disturbing, to recruit homeless people from Washington, D.C. to serve as their mercenary army. These two suburban kids from million-dollar neighborhoods allegedly plan to exploit society's most vulnerable people, the homeless of our nation's capital, as cannon fodder for their invasion. Let that sink in. They were trying to build an army of homeless people to go take over this Haitian island. Now, to fully understand the gravity of this alleged plot, you need to understand Gavin Island, and you need to understand Haiti. Gavin Island sits in the Gulf of Gavin, about 30 miles northwest of Port-au-Prince. It's roughly 37 miles long and 9 miles wide, 290 square miles of limestone terrain, rugged hills, and coastal villages. The island is home to approximately 87,000 people, though that number fluctuates as refugees from mainland Haiti seek shelter there. Most residents are farmers and fishermen. The infrastructure is minimal. There's one 50-bed hospital run by Wesleyan missionaries since 1948. Electricity comes from a single municipal diesel generator that runs only certain hours of the day. Fresh water is a constant struggle. It's a place that has been forgotten by the world, a place of profound poverty and resilience, a place where families have lived for generations, weathering hurricanes, earthquakes, and political upheaval. And apparently, Weisenberg and Thomas looked at these people, these families, these children, and saw only prey. But here's what these two apparently failed to consider in all their meticulous planning. Haiti is a nation that fights back. In 1791, the enslaved people of Saint-Domingue, as Haiti was known then, launched a revolution that would shake the foundations of the colonial world. For 13 years, they fought against the French Empire, the same French Empire that had conquered much of Europe under Napoleon. Led by Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe, the enslaved Africans of Haiti did what no other enslaved population in human history had ever accomplished. They defeated their oppressors in open warfare and established an independent nation. On January 1st of 1804, Haiti declared independence, becoming the first free black republic in the world and the first nation in Latin America to throw off colonial rule. They didn't just escape bondage, they crushed the army of one of history's greatest military powers. The Haitian Revolution remains the only successful slave rebellion that resulted in the creation of a sovereign state. Those descendants of those revolutionaries still live on islands like Gavin, and the idea that two privileged suburbanites with a sailboat and some homeless recruits could subjugate them is not just evil, it's outright delusional. Matter of fact, I would have loved to see them try this, because they would have got chopped the hell up and thrown in that ocean for shark food. But you might be asking yourself, how did this alleged conspiracy come to light? The indictment mentions that the case was investigated by 3 agencies: the FBI, the U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and the Salina Police Department, a small department in a town of about 20,000 people in Collin County. The involvement of local police departments suggests that the investigation may have begun with a tip or an incident close to home. The Air Force's involvement indicates that Thomas's military activities had drawn scrutiny, and the FBI's presence reflects the international scope of the alleged conspiracy. What we do know for certain is that on July 3rd of 2025, Gavin Weisenberg was arrested. Tanner Thomas was also taken into custody, though the exact date is not publicly available. On November 20th of 2025, a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Texas returned a 2-count indictment against both men. Count 1, conspiracy to murder, maim, or kidnap in a foreign country. Count 2, production of child videos, we'll say. That second count is buried in the press releases, almost an afterthought in the shadow of the monstrous conspiracy charge. But according to the indictment, on August 31st of 2024, just weeks after they allegedly began planning their invasion, Weisenberg and Thomas coerced a minor to perform adult acts on camera. And I don't know any way to put that without YouTube flagging it, but this wasn't an abstract evil. This wasn't just a dark fantasy. According to prosecutors, there was already a real victim, a child. And we don't know who that child is. Obviously, I wouldn't say their names or nothing like that to protect them, but they were victimizing children and also planning this attack in Haiti to further victimize children and women. Both defendants have entered pleas of not guilty. Weisenberg's attorney, David Finn, released a statement urging the public to hold their horses. While there is some truth to the allegations, Finn wrote, I believe that it will become clear what actually did not, and could not have happened. If your initial response to the government's press release was, that sounds crazy, impossible, and absurd, you might be onto something important. Thomas's attorney, John Helms, has similarly promised a vigorous defense. Now, I believe they were trying to do what they set out to do. They look insane, and they're already committing crimes on children here in the US, so I'm not shocked at all. Thomas's attorney, John Helms, has similarly promised a vigorous defense. The defense strategy seems clear. Argue that these were foolish fantasies, not genuine plans, dark role-playing that got out of hand. Disturbing, perhaps, but not criminal conspiracy. Prosecutors will have to prove that Weisenberg and Thomas genuinely intended to carry out their plot, not just that they talked about it, but they took substantial steps toward making it happen. They clearly were trying to go through with this. They invested so much time, so much money, so much effort into this. I don't see it going any other way. They were planning on carrying out this attack. Dr. Alex Del Carmen, a criminologist with 29 years of experience, called this the most bizarre case he's ever seen on U.S. soil. But he noted that federal prosecutors typically don't bring charges unless they believe they can prove intent and capability. That is true. If the feds are building a case against you, you probably ain't gonna beat it. I mean, probability-wise, they got something on you. They got a lot on you. I think it's more than just talk, Del Carmen said. Federal prosecutors will look at what sort of planning took place and whether or not there was intent. And in addition to the intent, whether these individuals had the capability of doing this. The fire academy enrollment, the military enlistment, the language training, the Thailand trip, the reassignment to Maryland, the homeless recruitment plan. If convicted of the conspiracy charge, both men face up to life in federal prison. The child videotape charge carries up to 15 to 30 years. That's all the information I have on this case so far, guys. Let me know what you guys think of this one in the comment section, because this is wild. This is a wild case. And I actually wish they tried to carry this out and got, maybe I won't say that word, but I wish they carried this out and got what was coming to them, because I don't think Haiti's just gonna let 2 men and an army of homeless dudes just invade their island and wreak havoc. I think people that try that end up missing and never found.